Welcome back, guys. I am Jake Ellenbogen, and today we are talking about the Rams offensive line in 2024, what that could look like, and who they could end up signing, who are some decent options. Obviously, I kind of had to cut some out of the list because I was going through it and I was like, this guy doesn't make any sense. Before we get into it, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. You could follow me at JK Bogan on all social media. And I just want to turn your attention to the fact that I did start a audio podcast. It's basically just all sorts of stuff, a miscellaneous, unfiltered, uncensored podcast. So if you want more JE content, there you go. Link is in the description. Check it out. Okay, let's dive into it. So I got to ask 7 questions, and I'll answer them, but I'm asking you guys as well. So feel free to follow along, drop in the comment section your answers. First off, question 1. Is Kevin Dotson brought back? I mean, that's an important thing here. I talked about tagging him in a previous video. To me, it's a no-brainer. You got to give him the franchise tag. I mean, I just think the money's already up at that point. Better safe than sorry. So I think Dotson is brought back. He's the best right guard that they've had in quite some time. So, yeah, I definitely think he's brought back. Number 2, does Steve Avila continue his career at left guard, or does he move to center, his natural position? I kind of lean towards center, and that is going to influence my list of free agent opportunities, guys that they could sign. But I'm curious what you guys think. I've heard on both sides. I've heard there could be some center, there could be guard. I don't know. I don't think the Rams know. I think we'll find out, but he sure would be a mauling center. I mean, going from Coleman Shelton to Steve Avila, if Steve Avila can properly play the position at a high enough level, that would be amazing. Question 3. Are the Rams legitimately okay with their starting 5 going forward? Now, I got to say no. I don't think they're okay with their starting 5 going forward. I think they did what they could in a season where they didn't have a lot of cap space. They did sign Coleman Shelton, who has got a really good contract for a guy to be a backup center this year. Okay, so I think they should upgrade at that spot. I think he is the weak link, but I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's somebody that could start, be a spot starter, but I think he's a backup. Brian Allen's cap hit, believe it or not, right now, is $7.2 million. So when we're talking about Coleman Shelton, who's starting, by the way, currently right now, $3 million. Brian Allen, I don't know what happened to him. He was a Pro Bowl alternate center at one point, and now he barely played this year. And when he was in, it might be the injuries, with all due respect to him. I don't see the Rams bringing him back. 7.2, that's a large cap hit. The Rams can get half of that back on their cap. They could also re-sign him as a backup, but I kind of feel like they'll cut him. So with that said, if they do cut him, Coleman Shelton would be the starter. There'd be nobody behind him. If they move Steve Avila at center, Coleman Shelton's the backup. He can also play guard. He has the position versatility and a $3 million cap hit. It works for the Rams. I don't think they cut him. That's a good contract to have. So, to go back to it, I don't think they're okay with their starting 5 going forward. I think they'll look to potentially upgrade center. I think they love right guard, right tackle, and left guard. If they move Avila to center, they just love Avila, I guess. So we'll see what happens there. And then left tackle is intriguing because I got to say, Alaric Jackson at the end of the season turned it on. I thought he played at a really high level. And keep in mind, this is his first year playing like almost a full season. He had the blood clots in his leg last year when he was playing well. He shined in moments. This is kind of their guy. Like, this is their project. So this UDFA, who they found, their diamond in the rough, who they continue to develop. I mean, do you want to let that guy go? You don't have to. He's a restricted free agent. But are you okay with the starting 5 going forward? And that's the question the Rams are going to have to ask. I could see them 100% upgrading here. I could see them moving Alaric Jackson, kicking him in at guard, moving Avila to center. I think there are different ways they could go. I also think he could replace Joseph Nopum. That is also a fascinating one. Again, Nopum, $20 million cap hit. So we're going to get into that. Question 4. Will the Rams let guys like Alaric Jackson walk outright? I don't see it with Alaric. He's a restricted free agent. I think the tackle class is good enough where, like, he's young and he could get interest, but I think the Rams could bring him back pretty easily. I don't think he's going to get priced out of the range, but if he does, there's going to be options. I'm going to say that he does not walk outright, and I think they do bring him back. Now, Tremaine Ankrum, that's a better question. Ankrum's a depth piece. Does he want to go and try to start somewhere? Does he want to stay with the Rams? That will be determined, but I think Ankrum has more of a chance of walking than Alaric Jackson. Just based on what I've heard, they really like Alaric Jackson. I think they'd want to keep him around. That does not necessarily mean he'll be starting, but they like him. Number 5 question, is it worth diving into free agency on the offensive line over drafting talent? I would say you can never say free agency is better than drafting talent because you're basically talking about two different things. Free agency can help you now and can help you down the road for sure. Draft is really meant for guys that you're not paying a ton of money. You're getting them at a good value, and if you draft well enough, you're going to have these guys on the cheap for 4 years, and it allows you to make bigger moves. It balances out your cap. That's why the Rams got into such a cap hell, if you will, although they're already out of it, which is kind of hilarious because the haters really didn't think that was possible. But the point is, if you don't draft well or you don't have a lot of picks, then you don't have manageable contracts. If you don't have manageable contracts, then you're not balancing out your cap very well. And if you're not balancing out your cap very well, you can't do either. You can't sign your draft picks. You can't sign anybody in free agency. So, look, I think it is worth diving into free agency if I'm the Rams on the offensive line. Okay, I 100% think that. However, I think the draft still matters a lot. There are a lot of key pieces. I talked about Amarius Mims on this channel. That's, if Talise Fuaga is off the board. That's if they don't trade up to get Fashanu or trade up and get Joe Alt. Cooper Beebe at guard. I mean, Cedric Van Pran at center. I mean, there are guys in this draft that I'm like, yeah, they'll probably look at. But here's the deal, okay? I think it is worth diving into free agency. Just, I wouldn't say on the offensive line over drafting talent. I would disagree with that. Question 6. If you choose free agency, what positions do you target? Now, I am talking specifically about the offensive line because obviously we could go all day about positions that you would target. But this is an offensive line-centric video. This is an isolated video. You guys know how I like to do isolated videos. I take a topic and I focus on the topic. I'll mention other things here and there, but I'm not going to take too much time away from the task at hand. So, if you choose free agency, what positions do you target on the offensive line? And I would say you could target all 3 of them. You could target guard. You could target tackle. You could target center. Now, here is the caveat, okay? I think the draft is going to be the best case scenario for tackle because I would take Alaric Jackson over every single free agent tackle that there is except for one. I'll get into that. Guard. Here's the thing. If Steve Avila stays at guard and you bring back Kevin Dotson, you don't need to pay a guard big time money. But if you wanted to, and Steve Avila moved to center, Robert Hunt is available, okay? He's top 10 in everything for an offensive lineman, overall grade on PFF, run blocking grade, pass protection grade, 28 years old, would reunite with Kevin Dotson in this scenario. They both played their football at Louisiana Lafayette. 6'6", 335. So if the Rams want to stick with that archetype of, more the mauler, that big, thick guard, then they could do that. I think Hunt could also play tackle in a pinch if you needed him to. Damian Williams is interesting. 27-year-old, 6'3", 332. Not as good. 41st in terms of overall guard play. Keep in mind it's out of 64, so that's still a starting level player. 48th against, in the run blocking game and the 33rd in pass pro. Ezra Cleveland is interesting. He's the youngest of this group, 26 years old. 6'6", 312 pounds. He's 43rd of all guards, 36th in the run, and 52nd in pass pro. Then Dalton Reisner, who's 29 years old, 6'5", 312. He's 51st overall at guard, 69th in run, 23rd in pass protection. So the only way this works is if two things happen. One of two things happen. Either Steve Avila moves to center, or the Rams just don't end up bringing back Kevin Dotson. Now, I don't think Kevin Dotson is leaving. I don't. I can't see them letting him go. I really think the plan all along was to bring him back, and I don't think he's going to be priced out of their range because I think they've already shown they'll pay money for talent on the offensive line. So, guard here. Does Steve Avila move to center? I'm going to predict he does. I'm going to say Steve Avila moves to center, and if they were to go with a guard here, it could be Nopum. I mean, he's under contract. It's going to be hard to move that deal theoretically. $20 million cap hit, cut or reworked or traded potentially. I mean, cut $5 million in dead money, traded $15 million in dead money. The thing I kind of could see happening is it's a reworked extension. But does he want to do that? I mean, he's owed, a certain amount of money. They could also stretch the deal, like a stretch provision, like the NBA used to do, where you stretch. It's not that you get him next year because his contract ends after 2024, but the dead money you stretch into 2025. So you break it up. So it'd be $5 million this year and $10 million in 2025. So something to think about if you release him or trade him after June 1st. But he is valuable, and we saw that. He might not be the best player in the world, but he was needed quite a bit this year to be that Johnny on the spot, and he definitely was up for that. And by the way, Alaric Jackson, had a personal issue where he had to leave. He basically could not play in the Giants game week 17. I was there, find out 3 hours before kickoff. They knew beforehand, but being able to have Joe Noteboom just slide in there at left tackle, that's a weapon right there. That's utility. That's huge. They also have Warren McClendon Jr. on the roster. They have A.J. Arcuri. They have Zach Thomas, Logan Bruss, Grant Miller, Brian Allen, who I think is going to get cut, and Mike McAllister. Quite a few of those guys have been signed to futures deals. Of course, we talked about Tremaine Ankrum. Does he come back? Does he not come back? He's going to be a free agent. So now, this leaves the question. I mean, if Avila moves to center, then what guard would you go after? Would you just go in the draft? Would you just use Noteboom? And I'd say you'd have to sign somebody. And look, I understand before you get into it, come on, Jake, you got to spend money on the defense. I get that. But you are making an investment in the offensive line that's going to help Stafford now and is going to help the future quarterback later. And I mean, let's be honest here, mainly Stafford, because these guys are signing 4 or 5 year deals. Stafford's probably going to play through most of that, if not all of those deals. So keep that in mind. But still, let's just say it is. Robert Hunt becomes the most intriguing to me. 28 years old, 6'6", 335, like I mentioned, 6th overall, 8th in the run game, and 10th as a pass protector. Those are his rankings per PFF. Hunt played with Dotson at Louisiana Lafayette, like I mentioned. He's the best guy on the market. You'd be paying $34 million average annual to 2 guards who are 28. So I could see them not doing that, but I'm going to be honest with you, that's the only one I would do that for. I wouldn't pay Damian Williams a ton of money. I don't think he's on the level of Hunt. I don't think Cleveland is. I don't think Reisner is. I like them all, but Robert Hunt would be like, okay, now we're cooking with gas. So I don't think they go that route. I'd like to see it. I think it'd be cool, but I don't think they go that route. However, they could go with the draft, or keep this in mind. They could keep Avila at left guard, bring back Kevin Dotson. So now we talk about centers. Now you got Lloyd Cushenberry, who's 10th overall at center, 13th in 13th in run blocking, and 3rd in pass protection. He's 27 years old, 6'4", 315. He'd be such a huge upgrade over Coleman Shellen. Connor Williams, this is an interesting one here. 2nd overall center, first in run blocking, and ninth in pass pro. His issue, he's 27 years old, non-issue, 6'5", 317, non-issue. He tore his ACL, issue. But that could make him interestingly affordable. It could force him to take a prove-it deal when really he didn't have to prove a ton, because going into this, and I feel bad for him because he was playing at an elite level at center, but now with the ACL tear, he'd be ready likely, but it was a late ACL tear, so who knows? And that might knock some cost off the market, and maybe he becomes a Ram. Who knows? Andre James, interesting one from the Raiders. 9th overall, 11th in the run, 10th in pass pro. 27 years old, 6'4", 300 pounds. I could see somebody like that. I think they would probably roll with Shelton, but he's better than Shelton. I'll say that right now. Aaron Brewer is fascinating. I want to mention him. I don't think he's really that much of an option, but I think he's fascinating because he's 11th overall center, 6th in the run, 30th in pass pro. Guys, this guy's 27 years old. That's not the crazy thing. He's 6'1", 274. I've never seen a center 274. I've never seen like a center in the NFL smaller than 285. That is unheard of for me. I've never, ever seen that. Crazy athlete, but you can see why he's 30th in pass pro. I see what they're doing there, but this isn't guard. 32, you have 64 starting guards. This is 32 starting centers, and he's 30th in pass pro. He wouldn't be a schematic fit at all. But I just figured I'd mention it because it's kind of fun. I don't know. 6'1", 274. Love that. Rooting for him. So that brings me to the final question. What would be the best realistic offensive line that I could create? With just using these, obviously not the draft. The draft is still in play. I mean, that's the thing. You can go out, like I said, you can get Cooper Beebe, you can get Amarius, Mims, you can get Jordan, you can get whoever. I mean, but what I'm talking about with the just using free agency and what they have currently on the roster, I gotta say, I thought of something very interesting, and it'll surprise you, but I actually think, and I don't know if the Rams will do this, but I think a guy like Tyron Smith, who is a free agent, he's finishing an 8-year contract with the Cowboys. At this point in his career, he probably wants to win. The way that ended in Dallas, that could be the end of his career in Dallas. I mean, 4th overall tackle, according to PFF, 26th in the run, and then 1st in pass protection. The guy's a brick wall. When he's healthy, he is among the best pass protectors. He's not one of the best run blockers, but he's still good. 26th, I think it's a little deceptive. But 33 years old. Until December, he turns 34. 6'5", 320. Jake, why are you talking about adding an older guy? Well, folks, don't you remember 2017? The Rams were young. They had a young quarterback. They had a young core. They drafted well. They had a young coach. They're young now. What did they do in that class? Well, they signed Andrew Whitworth. Left tackle, best protection that Goff ever had. So let me ask you this. How old was Andrew Whitworth when he became a Ram? Don't look it up. I'll give you a sec. You tell me. He was 36 when they signed him. So Tyron Smith, who has been playing forever, and he's among one of those guys that because he had an injury once, he had a down year last year, people think he's trash. They think he's washed. They think he's done. He's just a big name. Then this year he comes back and pretty much he's Tyron Smith. What if the Rams just said, you know what? We like Alec Jackson. We're going to bring him back. We like Noteboom. We're going to try and move him though. And we're going to bring in Tyron Smith to replace Andrew Whitworth. And we're going to sign him to a 3-year deal like we did with Whitworth. And we're going to give him an opportunity in the next 3 years to win the Super Bowl he never won in Dallas. Sound familiar? Because that was Whitworth. Played his whole career with the Bengals. And then he left to go and chase a ring with the Rams. But here's the catch. Whitworth left to sign with the Rams, who had not made the playoffs the year prior. They were 4-12. He was sold an idea. He didn't see it come to life. Tyron Smith has watched this team, whether he wants to or not. He's watched this organization win the Super Bowl 2 years ago, have the best coach in football, have an offensive line that can protect Stafford, but at times maybe could use better protection at left tackle. Look, this is a perfect fit. Will it happen? I don't know. But make no mistake about it. See, the Rams said, or Les Snead said, they'd be aggressive in 2024. And they could still have their eye on the prize while also staying young. And they could still stay young while going out and getting a 33-year-old Tyron Smith. But you got to sometimes just go after the piece that makes sense. And if you want to upgrade tackle, because if you don't want to upgrade tackle, that's fine. I don't think you need to upgrade over Alec Jackson via free agency. There's not one. Trent Brown I wouldn't take. I wouldn't take Jermaine Illuminor. I wouldn't take anybody except for Tyron Smith. Tyron Smith is one of the best tackles still. You're not paying top dollar to go out and get a nobody. But here's the thing. Tyron Smith could take a little bit less money to chase a ring. And everyone just saw that Rams team is way ahead of schedule, and they're building something. And you know they're building something. They're a top 8 offense in the league this year. Does Tyron really not want to be a part of that if he leaves Dallas? I think this would be 100%. He'd be able to go to sunny California. He'd play with Sean McVay. I mean, come on. This is a perfect fit. And he watched it happen with Whitworth. They can do the same thing. Lightning can strike twice. To me, to answer the 7th question, the best realistic offensive line that you could create would be left tackle, Tyron Smith, with just free agency, not draft. Left tackle, Tyron Smith. Left guard, I'm going to say Alec Jackson. Center, Steve Avila. Right guard, Kevin Dotson. And right tackle, Rob Havenstein. And tell me, if this happens, tell me that's not a top 5 offensive line in the NFL. Tell me, because you can't. Havenstein's a top 10 tackle. Tyron is a top 10 tackle. Steve Avila would be a top 10 center day one, probably. I mean, it's in his natural position. Alec would be a solid guard, wouldn't be the most strong guard. Keep in mind, we're just trying to keep it realistic and within free agency and what they have. And then Kevin Dotson would be a top 10 guard. Now, if you want to get, down to the nitty gritty, Tyron Smith would be a top 5 tackle. Rob Havenstein would probably be a top 5 right tackle. Dotson would be a top 3 guard. Steve Avila would be a top 5 center, potentially. And Alec Jackson would be a top 32 guard, which is starting level, beyond starting level. So, look, it's not perfect. There's not the perfect, if you're hoping to find some 24-year-old that is on the level of, what Brian Burns is, but at left tackle, you're not finding that. But Tyron Smith offers a very intriguing scenario that I would be all for if the money made sense. Now, if you have to pay him $20 million, I'm not doing it. But PFF has him at 1 year, $10 million. What if you gave him 3 years, $30 million, or 3 years, $36? I would do that. I would do that in a heartbeat. I mean, you could say, oh, well, he's older. Again, Whitworth had injuries in his career, and they signed him at 36. And by the way, this is no knock on Whitworth. It's not saying that it's easy for this to happen. It's really not. But when you have an elite athlete, you have a guy that takes care of himself. You just have a guy that just is consistent. Consistency is what makes shit like this possible. And when you look at Whitworth, he made it possible to go from 36 to 40 and play 5 years with the Rams, play 5 seasons with the Rams. Tyron Smith just played an 8-year contract with Dallas, had 1 season in which it looked like he fell off a cliff, and then his next season he was back to being Tyron Smith. Is he the best tackle in the league unequivocally? No. He's not that anymore, and that's okay. But he's still top 5. At the very least, he's top 10. But he's probably top 5. So marinate on that. I'm just saying there's a reason why I'm mentioning this stuff. I've been doing a lot of research into the guys that are available. Now, if I had to pick a center and I kept Steve Avila at left guard, and we're talking Tyron Smith at left tackle, Steve Avila at left guard, center open, right guard Dotson, and right tackle Havenstein, the center that I would choose would be either Lloyd Cushenberry or would be Connor Williams. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind a prove-it deal Connor Williams at center because God forbid, okay, he can't play. The ACL turns out to be bad, like really bad, and like it holds him back, and he doesn't come back until week 8. Coleman Shelton was your starter this year. You can work with Coleman Shelton. I'm not saying Shelton's bad. Shelton can start. But if you're trying to win a Super Bowl, you'd probably want to upgrade, and that is where we're at. So, Cushenberry or Connor Williams. Tyron Smith is the only tackle I would touch with a 10-foot pole. And I know some people will be like, you mentioned Jonah Williams. I did. Before I watched him play a full season. He gave up 8 sacks. He had over 40 pressures allowed. Jonah Williams would not be a good fit for the Rams. Plus, he's mainly a right tackle. He wouldn't play left tackle. I like this move. And I'm not saying they have to go this direction, but think about how amazing it would be. Just think about this for a sec. You get Tyron Smith. You lock down the left tackle spot for 3 years. You sign Alaric Jackson. He can play guard. He could also back up tackle. You keep Noteboom around somehow, and you have all that depth at tackle and guard, and then you draft a tackle to take over for Tyron Smith. And this tackle class is huge, so you don't need to draft somebody in the first. You could take the kid out of Yale. You could take the guy, Kingsley, I totally forgot his name, but the kid out of BYU. You could take Kansas Jayhawk. They got some decent prospects this year. You could take Kansas Jayhawk, Dominic Pooney, and the way he played. I mean, he was a top 5 PFF offensive lineman, PFF tackle. So there's a lot of opportunities here. And that's the thing that's why you got to stay tuned, folks, because this offseason is massive. I know I said it last year. This offseason is transformative because we're going to see what the Rams, being aggressive, according to Les Snead in 2024, being aggressive in 2024, we're going to find out what that means in 2024. We're going to find out what that means after a season that exceeded their expectations. That many people's expectations, that is now focusing on the Super Bowl. We're going to find out how aggressive they go. And this would be an aggressive move, but it might be the right move. And I don't feel like it's going all in because here's the thing. The Rams still have to abide by the fact that, yes, they're trying to have a long-term future. That's the point of going out and getting a Brian Burns, somebody like that. However, you also have to think about your window, and it is closing specifically on Stafford, on Kupp, on Donald. So you have to think about that. If you think about those guys and how the window's closing on them, then Tyron Smith makes a lot of sense. And here's the thing. The window is closing on them. That's how I worded that. I didn't say the window was closing on the Rams. The Rams window is open as long as they have Sean McVay. That's what we found out this year, is that Sean McVay can guide, as long as they don't get destroyed with injury, Sean McVay can guide any team to the playoffs. I mean, he is truly the best coach in the National Football League. I'd fight anybody on it, and that's how I feel. So let me know in the comments section. Where are you? I know it's a lot I just threw at you. Where are you on Tyron Smith? I think it's somebody that, surprisingly, huge name, hasn't really been mentioned by Rams fans. And if it has, I'm sorry, I'm just now noticing. But I think it would be awesome to have him, have Havenstein, have Avila, have Dotson, and then, whether it's Cushenberry or Noteboom or Alaric, I mean, they'd be in such a good spot. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'm going to keep pounding the stump for Tyron Smith, I think I like that move a lot. But that's all I got for you guys. You guys take care. I'll see you guys soon. Later, folks.
Start playing Pick'em or Weekly Fantasy for any sport today, Jake. Users will receive a 100% deposit match up to $100 if they use promo code OTE at sign up. Start playing Pick'em and Weekly Fantasy Football today with Underdog Fantasy.
Do you love talking about the Rams, the NFL, or just want to be a part of a community? Join my free Discord server today. We're over 800 members. We got 24/7 live chat, a level 3 boosted server, the ability to call into JE Live, playing online games with us on Kick streams, toggleable alerts for when I go live on YouTube or Kick so you don't miss a live stream, and exclusive giveaways. Click the link in the description, the comments section, or the link that comes up in the video to learn more and join today.